1-year, 3-month-old calf will never leave its mother and be on its own. Submergence of the grasslands this year for a longer period of time reduced the amount of fodder availability for the elephants in the Minneriya Kaudulla area. They are the rightful owners of that home, the national park, not humans who are going as visitors.
Welcome to this special discussion brought to you by Wild Animals Sri Lanka, a 360 coverage of mesmerizing Sri Lankan wildlife. Join with us today is the veteran environmental scientist, Dr. Sumit Pilapitiya, to share his experience of over 25 years in the field. He has facilitated the World Bank as the lead environmental scientist of the South Asian region, and also he has served as the Director General for the Wildlife Department. At present, he is a full-time elephant researcher collaborating with Department of Wildlife. Dr. Sumit Pilapitiya, so tell us about who supported you from the discovery, or how did you came across? Is it during a study, or how did you feel about it after you see this, and how did you verify that these are indeed twin elephant calves?
Well, I have been doing a study on elephant social behavior in the Minneriya Kaudulla National Parks since 2016. So during that study, I tend to observe the herd behavior as well as the male behavior in trying to interpret how elephants react to each other, and when we observe a herd of elephants, what is happening, how are they reacting to external pressures, how do they react among themselves, how do they interact among themselves, and the sort is what I have been studying for the last since 2016. In 2020, July 2020, if you recall, due to the COVID situation, the Minneriya National Park, all the national parks were closed until around the middle of June or the last week of June. So I was unable to be in Minneriya until the parks opened, and I was there in the first week of, at least at the end of June. And during my observations, I suddenly noticed two very small calves who were about 2 to 3 weeks old, who seemed to be around one mother, and they seemed to be together all the time. And the first day I noticed it, it didn't occur to me what it could be. But that evening when I was looking at my videotape, the data of behavior, and these two calves tended to raise a question in my mind, whether it could be twins. So from the next day, I started observing them, specifically without moving out, observing this particular herd and these two calves. And I had been doing this observation for about 4 days. I did this observation for about 4 days and spending 5 to 6 hours per day observing, just focusing on these two calves. And by the third day or fourth day, I was quite positive that they were twins based on behavioral observations, but I couldn't still be certain about it until I could see both calves suckling from the mother, from each breast of the mother. Then I can verify that both calves are drinking milk from the same mother. So it was the 6th of July last year, 2020, that I finally got a very clear sighting of both calves suckling from the same mother. And during the period from the 1st to the 6th that I have been observing these calves, I didn't see them suckling from any other female. So I could see them suckling, but at a distance, it is very difficult for me to see whether both calves are suckling or whether they are taking in turns. So when I saw both of them suckling from the same female on each breast, and I hadn't observed them suckling from any other female for the last 6 days, I was pretty convinced that they were twins, purely from a behavioral point of view, because their behavior was very, very similar to twins. I had read about twins in the African countries, getting twins is a very rare occurrence. Less than 1% of births result in twins. And so from the behavior, it was quite clear to me that they were twins. And it was a unique feature because this is the first time that we have recorded twins being born to Asian elephants. And I would like to emphasize that doesn't mean that this is the first set of twins that have been born. They may be born without us knowing. And even I was able to realize they were twins because I've been doing research in that park and I have been observing the herds for a long time. It is only then, and even for me, it took me 6 days of continuous observation of the herd for me to be certain from a behavioral point of view that they were twins.
Less than 1%, you said. It's such an
Yes.
opportunistic discovery, I would say, and to hear about the dedication and at a stretch going at about it like for 4 days, observing these two calves only exclusively, we can imagine what kind of an effort put behind to this discovery. And I would certainly say it would have been such a joyful occasion for you and also for the wildlife department officers as well. So after this, so we heard about how immense the effort you put behind it, and for the finding and to verify through the behavioral of the elephants that these are twins for sure. Then what happened after? Like, how did you all, because I read in a research article based on African twin elephant calves birth, so that the first year of that their upbringing is very crucial, that could be impeded by a lot of factors. So I would like to know, how did you all, whether you had a plan after that to keep a track on this, the growth of these two calves, or how other people like Department of Wildlife and other researchers were interested on it, whether what was the plan after that, or what are the factors that you had to actually taken into consideration to look after these two calves?
Well, as soon as I was convinced that they were twins, the first thing I did obviously was inform the Wildlife Conservation Department. And some of the department officials also had seen these two calves, but not realizing that they were twins. They had also observed the two calves in a herd, two very young calves, but they didn't realize they were twins. So since then, in consultation with the park warden of Mineria National Park, we decided that we are going to observe these twins as closely as possible. Particularly because, for one thing, it is quite interesting that this is the first time in Sri Lanka or among Asian elephants that we have recorded twins. And secondly, I wanted to study the progress of these twins for as long as I could. In fact, it is my intention, it was my intention to follow these twins for the rest of my life, because I was studying their population. So I thought, because elephants are a long-lived species, so you can't study them for 1 or 2 years and reach any conclusion, because it would be very interesting to see how these twins evolved, because they were very close to each other. They were playing with each other all the time, and how that will result when the male calf gets bigger, because at the age of about 12 to 14 years, the male generally leaves the herd. So what would happen there? So I had a long-term plan of studying these twins as long as I could. Now, when you are looking at twins or any calf for that, elephant calf for that matter, the first year of life is the most critical for any elephant, single or twins. Because during that first year in particular, the elephant depends 100% on the mother's milk. And it depends on the mother's experience of protecting the calf. So according to research data done on Asian elephants and African elephants, generally, if the mother is very inexperienced, if it's a young mother, first set of calves or something like that, the probability of the calf dying is greater. The calf mortality among young mothers is greater than older experienced mothers. For obvious reasons, the mother knows how to deal with a calf better once the mother is experienced. So the first thing that struck me was that the twins' mother was an older female. She also had a juvenile calf already. So that clearly showed that she has had calves before. So that gave the twins quite an advantage that we are dealing with an experienced mother. So since July, I spend about 10 to 15 days a month in Min area. During my absence, I get the department also tries to follow them, or I have an assistant also who goes observing the twins and sending me photographs and recording the collecting data for me. So we were observing the growth of these twins. We were also paying attention to the suckling rates, because we were concerned that generally elephants have only one calf. So the mother produces enough milk for one calf. Now we have two calves, the twin calves. So there could be a situation where there might not be enough milk for one of the calves. And if one calf is dominant over the other one when it comes to suckling and doesn't allow the other calf to suckle, then the other calf could get weaker and we could have a problem. So we were studying the suckling rates. Unfortunately, at a distance, it is very difficult to identify who exactly is suckling at a given moment unless they're close enough for us to see whether it's which calf it is. We first identified that the calves were one male and one female. And based on my observations over about a 6-month period, I found that they were suckling about evenly. But the male calf was slightly more aggressive than the female calf. There have been instances where I have seen the male calf pushing the female calf away when the female calf is trying to suckle from the mother. But those are not very common occurrences. It was very occasionally, but nevertheless it did happen, which is also in keeping with the research data, because the males are generally a little more aggressive when it comes to feeding, even if it is a single calf. Right? So we were observing that. So my biggest worry was, will they survive the 6 months? And I'm very happy to say that the last sighting I had of them was December 21st, 2020. And the calves were doing fine. So they had, we felt that they were born somewhere in the middle of June. They were born in the middle of June. So December was about 6 months. So it told us, okay, great. They have survived 6 months. But I was quite worried because the worst time for elephants in the Min area, Kaudulla area is from about January till about April. Because elephants come to Min area and Kaudulla for the grasslands. And the grasslands get submerged. During the rainy season with the northeast monsoon. The grasslands get submerged. And with the submergence of the grasslands, the elephants don't have the grasslands. Then they have to depend on the forest. So I was quite concerned during that period. And like I said, the last time I observed the twin calves were on the 21st of December. They were on one part of Min area that you have to cross a small stream to get onto that side. And December, with the monsoon rains, the water level in the stream was very high. With the water level being very high, you couldn't get a vehicle across the stream. So since December, neither me or the Wildlife Conservation Department, because they also have to get across the stream, couldn't go on to the other side of the park to observe whether the herd was all right. And then the grasslands were completely submerged with water. But during that period, generally the elephants, this is a natural phenomenon where the grasslands get submerged towards the end of the year, then the elephants tend to move or migrate towards Kaudulla National Park and Hurulu Eco Park. So they tend to move out of that area. And then once the grasslands start emerging in April, May, the elephants start coming back. So we lost contact with the herd from December.
So from your answers, I gathered that for a long period of last year and the first half of this year also, this grassland might have been submerged due to heavy rainfall or some other incident. So could have that been a reason that they might have lost of fodder grounds, or they didn't have enough fodder grounds for the calves or the elephant herds to survive? Do you have any insights to share about that?
Yes, I feel that that could have played a role. See, the natural system in the Minneriya Kaudulla area has been that the monsoon rains come of November, December. From late October, November, December is monsoon rains, and that fills the reservoir in Minneriya. And they also channel some water in from some other upstream reservoirs. So by about December, the grasslands in Minneriya is completely full of water. Then from April, they start releasing water for agriculture, exposing the grasslands. And then fresh grass starts growing, and the elephants come to Minneriya actually for the fresh grass. Now, if the grasslands were not submerged the whole year also, it's a problem, because then the grass gets mature. You have to have this natural system of for a period of about 3 to 4 months, the grass is submerged. Then for 8 or 9 months, the grasslands emerge, and there's plenty of fresh grass for elephants. That has been going on for centuries. That's why there are so many elephants in Minneriya. But as usual, if something is occurring in nature very well, we humans have to go and upset the whole thing by intervening in it, unfortunately. And that's exactly what we did. With the construction of the Murugahakanda reservoir, we started releasing, the irrigation authority started releasing water into Minneriya during the middle of the dry season, in June, July. They release more water during the wet season also into Minneriya. So this year, Minneriya was full until the middle of June. So there were no grasslands for the elephants until the middle of June. And that too, it is receding very slowly. Even today, they have filled it again. There is no track for a vehicle to go on the grasslands today in Minneriya because it is full right almost up to the edge of the forest. So where do these elephants eat during this period? So obviously, to answer your question directly, that the submergence of the grasslands this year for a longer period of time reduced the amount of fodder availability for the elephants in the Minneriya Kaudulla area. And that could have contributed to the twin calves dying. One of the twin calves dying. For that matter, there may be other calves dying that we don't even know of, because we don't have individual IDs of all the calves and all the elephants in Minneriya yet. So it could be happening that we don't know about. So yes, I think the unseasonal human manipulation of water, releasing water in the dry season into Minneriya is already affecting the elephant gathering. There's only about half the elephants that normally come there. Secondly, it is also affecting the amount of food for the elephants, and it has increased the human-elephant conflict in the area. Since 2018, when the Murugahakanda reservoir started releasing water into Minneriya during the dry season, the human-elephant conflict around Minneriya has gone up 6-fold. A 6-fold rise in the human-elephant conflict. Once again, because we, without understanding natural systems well, we have manipulated the system. So yes, it certainly could have resulted in affecting the nutrition level of the elephants, particularly the mother, and that could have been a contributing factor to the twin calf dying.
Common knowledge that we know that elephants demonstrate herd behavior And also in that also, they have very sophisticated behavioral traits, one of which is that the young calves get nursed by other females of the herd along with the mother. So was there a possibility that both calves or one of the calves, you said the female calves, you observed that the male one was a little bit aggressive, so the suckling time could have been reduced for the other one. So in that kind of instant, is it possible that the female calf would have turned to another female to get fed? Is it a possibility?
Obviously, the possibility exists, but it is not probable. It's very unlikely that would have happened, simply because there is this concept called allomothering in a herd, where another female will tend to look after a calf that doesn't belong to her. But looking after and feeding a calf is two totally different things. Any female who has milk already has a calf that is suckling from her. That's why she has milk. So her priority is to give milk to her own calf, not to another calf. So any female that has potential to provide milk to a calf already has its own calf. So it is very, very, very rare occasions that we see a female with a calf allowing another female to suckle from another calf, to suckle from her. It happens, but extremely rare occasions, right? And
Right.
So because of that, it is very unlikely that there could have been any other calf or any other female who took the calf over completely. There are chances that another female could have spent time with the calf. You might see them suckling very occasionally for a couple of minutes, but not continuously. So I don't really feel that allomothering in that sense would have happened, and so I don't think that would have taken place. That's how I see it.
Thank you for that very clear explanation about the concept of allomothering and everything. The next question I had from your previous response is that you said the last sighting that, or last you recorded data about the twins in last year, December. So I think now we are in August 2021. So that sounds an alarm. So anything, I think the natural phenomenon that you explained, the submerge, the rainy season, and due to that, the submerge that happens in the national park. I think you would have lost track of them, if I'm not mistaken. That's what I gathered from what you explained earlier. So did that yield any drastical outcomes, or anything happen to these calves? I think now it's the time to share.
Yeah. Well, since December, we've been still trying to locate the calves. We've been going to Minneriya, Kaudulla, and Hurulu Eco Park, all three places looking to spot the calves. I said, like, since the grasslands are submerged, they go into the forest. Sometimes they move to Kaudulla or to the Eco Park, or there is jungle connectivity between these three protected areas. Between Hurulu, Kaudulla, and Minneriya, there is jungle connectivity, right? So because of the jungle connectivity, they could be not in either of the three parks and in the jungle areas connecting the three parks. So from January, we could not find the herd or the mother or the twins, right? And even though we kept trying, the department also was looking for them. And generally in April, the water starts receding in Minneriya, and then the grassland starts emerging, and elephants start gathering in Minneriya from about May onwards, right? That's why the great elephant gathering of Mineria is termed, because by about August, September, you get about 300 to 400 elephants on the grasslands of Mineria. Elephants from everywhere in the surrounding areas keep coming there. So they start coming into Mineria gradually. So in May would be the start of elephants, herds of elephants slowly coming into Mineria, and it keeps, the numbers keep increasing until it comes to August, September. And then with the rains in October, November, it starts reducing again and they go back into the forest. So as far as the department and I were concerned, we were not too concerned about the inability to find the herd, because they could be in a forest area, and we were expecting that we will see them when they come back to the grasslands in May, because once they are going to the forest, it's very difficult to locate them, because we can't walk every inch of the forest looking for them. So it's very difficult to locate elephants. So unfortunately this year, because of unseasonal water releases from Morgahakanda Reservoir, Mineria grasslands were pretty much full until about June, full of water. It's only appreciable amount of grasslands could be observed only towards the middle of June. And during that period, the Wildlife Department, again, we had this movement, because of the COVID situation, we had certain restrictions on movement. So I was unable to go to Mineria, and the Wildlife Department was also trying to observe, but they couldn't find the herd. So then the department requested me to go back at the end of June and try to see whether I could locate the herd. The reason that I was needed to locate the herd is we individually identify the elephants. So, and you can individually identify elephant like the difference between you and me, right? So somebody who knows to individually, because if not, when we see the mother, we will not realize it is the mother. So that's where I got involved again, and then we were looking for them, and we couldn't find them. But still, I was not too concerned, because I was expecting them to come into because the herd was missing. If the herd was missing, I didn't really consider that to be a serious problem. Then it was on the 12th of August that we identified the herd and the mother in Kaudula National Park on the grasslands on the 12th of August. And even though I was 100% sure of the sighting, just to verify, I went and checked with my ID database as well. And I am 100% sure that the mother was identified on the 12th of August. Unfortunately, the mother was with only one calf, only the male calf. The female calf was not there. And 12th, the herd was observed for about an hour, because it was late by the time we identified the herd. The 13th, 14th, for a couple of days, we spent 3-4 hours observing that herd, hoping that the female calf will be somewhere, right? And there are no calves in that herd of the size of the male calf. The twins are now about 1 year and 3 months old. We couldn't find a calf of the same size of the male calf in the entire herd. All the calves are much bigger. There were no smaller calves either. And observing it for a couple of days, spending that much time to see whether the female calf will be playing around with some other calves and will come back to the mother, we couldn't find that. We couldn't find a calf of that size in the entire herd. So based on those observations, it makes me feel that it looks like the female calf has died. Now, I can't tell you very categorically the female calf has died, because for me to say that, I should find the carcass, which we have not found. But observation, we do a lot of things on observations, based on observations. 1 year old, 1 year, 3 month old calf will never leave its mother and be on its own. It never happens. If the calf is missing from the mother's side, the probability is extremely high that the calf has died. So since I am 100%, this mother is very easy to identify because she has very distinct features. So the identification of the mother is 100% accurate. I have no doubt in my mind. The male calf who is around also, based on the photographic evidence I have of last year, there is no question that it is the calf. So it is the mother and calf for sure. But the female calf is missing. So that is of very serious concern to us that the female calf may have died. However, it is something natural also. Because like I said earlier, there are two calves drinking milk from this female. So there is a competition for milk. Secondly, the months of January to April is the worst time for elephants in the Minneriya Kaudulla area, because that is the time that the grasslands are no longer available for them. They have to survive on the fodder they get in the forest, which is much less than what they get on the grasslands. So things were working against this calf because there was a bit of competition for milk, as well as it was the worst time period for the mother as well. Because generally during times that the mother's body condition tends to deteriorate, obviously she has less nutrition. So she can't produce the amount of milk that she wants. And here in this particular instance, it's even more important because she has to provide it for two calves. So that's what we feel, that the female calf, it appears that the female calf has died. But I looked into literature on twins in Africa. There are certain instances that they have recorded twins. And in some of those instances, once again, one calf has died because of the lack of nutrition, adequate supply of milk for both calves. So it's not something completely unusual, even though it was nevertheless very, very depressing for me, who was observing these calves for the last year or more. And having been the person who identified them for the first time, it was very, very depressing when I realized that the female was missing. I still hope the female will be there, but the scientist in me tells me the female is gone. The female may be dead. So that is the situation. It's nothing to do, that is nature. We say the survival of the fittest. That term evolved because of situations like that. The fitter animal survives. So between the two, male and female, generally the males are a little more aggressive in general terms also. This is what most likely would have happened.
This is absolutely unfortunate news that we have to bring to all the elephant enthusiasts and conservation groups in total. And but I wanted to ask, and I think in your response also, I felt that when you mentioned that you are depressed about the fact that, because yeah, I understand from that researcher perspective and the person who is generally care for these elephants, what kind of a feeling that you might be experiencing. But I also wanted to know now in human twins that we have seen that they're emotionally also connected and bonded in a certain level. So is the mother or the other surviving calf would have an emotional effect of this incident? How would they feel about it? Have you noticed any behavioral traits when one calf passed away, how the other would get affected from that?
Well, that's a very difficult thing to comment on. See, there are times that we observe what we humans could term as grief in elephants, because there have been instances where when a calf dies, there are instances where the mother will have the dead calf carry the calf around for about a day. I have seen that in Minneriya itself. This has been recorded in elephant research elsewhere in the world also. So you have never seen a mother carrying a live calf around, right? Mother never carries the live calf around. It's a dead calf that the mother is carrying around. So that tells me maybe she realizes that something has happened to the calf. That's why the calf is not moving. Whether we can call that grief or not, it's very difficult to say, because emotions of animals is a evolving field, and it's a very difficult thing for us to try to evaluate, right? But there have been instances where when an elephant is dead and the body has decomposed to the level that there are only bones left, certain herds of elephants, or certain elephants, even males, when they're passing by, they will stop there and they stroke the bones with their trunk. They spend a lot of time there and then move on. I have seen that happening. This has been recorded. The best studied elephant population is in Amboseli National Park in Kenya. The same elephant population has been studied for 45 years continuously by different researchers. Some of them are still involved in this project. And based on some of the research findings I have read there, there was an instance where a particular, the jawbone of a particular elephant. Now, every elephant in Amboseli has been identified individually. The jawbone of an elephant of a particular, this researcher found and brought it back to her campsite, and left it there with other jawbones. They were collecting some of these bones also, other elephant bones. A few days later, the herd that the female whose jawbone was collected and brought had come. The camp is inside the park, and elephants come into the campsite regularly. This herd came and they went straight to the jawbone of the female of that herd, and they were feeling the jawbone for a while, and then the herd left, leaving one juvenile there who spent a lot more time. And this researcher says that that was the son of the female that died. So these things lead us to believe that there may be emotion. But for me to be able to say whether the loss of the female calf has affected the male calf, male twin, or the mother, it is difficult for me to say that now, because we don't know when the calf died. See, even in humans, as soon as a death occurs, we may grieve. But after a while, we get over it and life goes back to normal. So to observe whether that has happened or not, you have to be present when the calf dies, and then you have to be observing whether there has been any emotional change, whether there is any change in emotional behavior of the mother and other calf when that happened. So that is virtually impossible for us to do in the wild. So it's very difficult to say. So we have anecdotal evidence like the examples I gave you, saying that there may be emotional attachment, but I can't sit here and tell you, yes, after the female calf died, the male calf was very affected, because I don't know. We have no way of saying that.
Thank you for pulling out that research evidence and those amazing stories about how emotional intelligence of animals would be working on to show some behavioral traits. To conclude on this catastrophe and the sad conclusion of today's discussion, I would like to slightly deviate from the twins, but talk about the baby elephants in general and what we can do. So we all know that pre-COVID, national parks were tourist hotspots, and we know how the number of vehicles or the traffic that has happened inside the national parks. So when you know that a certain herd is having a baby calf, so young elephants, is there anything that we can do, or is there anything that we do that would have a certain negative impact on their growth or in their survival in the wild, and what we can do to avoid it, as a final word of take-home message for whoever who has connected with us, this discussion with us today?
Well, when we are visiting a national park, the first thing we have to realize is that we are visitors going into an area designated for the protection and conservation of wildlife. So they are the rightful owners of that home, the national park, not humans who are going as visitors. So we should go out of our way not to disturb wildlife for better observations. And unfortunately, we are doing that. We are disturbing animals for better observations for us. And that is wrong, because that has an impact on the behavior of elephants. It has an impact on the long-term conservation of elephants as well, because a study that was done in Udawalawe National Park shows that elephants feeding, when they're feeding, they feed more when there are no vehicles around than when there are vehicles around, because they are spending some of their time trying to protect the calves in the herd rather than feeding at that time, because there are vehicles around and they're nervous. So which says that if there were no vehicles, they will feed better. Feeding better means their body condition is better, their survival chances of survival is greater. So we have to realize that we can cause an adverse impact on elephants or other wildlife when we go to a national park, but as long as we don't disturb them, we don't get too close to them. If we are far away and we are observing them without harassing them at all, they will live their life without any problem, and that wouldn't stress them out. But we like to go right up close to animals. If we see a leopard, we have to go right up close to them. So by doing that, we are really negatively impacting on that elephant or that wild animal. So my appeal to all wildlife enthusiasts is, I agree, it is wonderful to go and see elephants in the wild, animals in the wild, wildlife in the wild, elephants in particular, because that's my passion. But we should do it in such a way that we do not harm the elephants, we do not harass the elephants, we do not increase stress on the elephants. You and I don't like to be stressed out. So why are we stressing out animals in their own home? So we have to take adequate precautions to ensure that we don't do that. So then we can come into a coexistence of where we observe wildlife, allowing them to do their own thing. Basically, we should be observing the animal so that the animal doesn't realize a human is present. If we observe wildlife like that, then have an issue of adverse impacts of your visitation on the wildlife. But unfortunately, many of us don't do that. So I would like to appeal to anybody who considers them a wildlife lover or a wildlife enthusiast. Always remember, you are going into their home and observe them without harming them and harassing them. If you do that, we can enjoy wildlife as well as the wildlife can survive without any problem.
Thank you, Dr. Pilupitiya, for your insights and also sharing both your scientific knowledge and your emotions tied up with your research and towards these amazing creatures. And quoting from your conclusion, I would like to invite all of you to restrict your wildlife experience to observation with a minimal impact. Be that responsible human. So thank you for joining with us today.